Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 150 of the Magic Beans podcast. My name is Cracker, and I will be your host tonight. And I'm joined by a very special guest for this very special episode in Reese. How you doing, Thais?
I'm doing fantastic. I feel very honoured to be here on this milestone episode.
I know. Well, we thought we'd bring in the big guns and someone good, and, you know, you fit the bill, mate.
I'm the sproutiest bean, the beaniest sprout, whatever we're gonna call it.
We got to work out what the next stage is. I think you've kind of, maybe a bean shoot. Is that the next stage? Well, there we go.
Shooting bean down the standings in the leagues.
They're also delicious as well, by the way. But welcome, mate. We've got a fun episode this week, and I'm really looking forward to getting into it with you. So, but before we get into this week's episode, I thought, as the guest of honor,
is it going to be? Oh, I'm excited for this part. Is it going to be this? Is it what I think it is?
It's going to be over to you, mate. Can you tell us all about our wonderful sponsors?
Josh and Pat's MTG Bazaar. They are one of a fantastic group of, I would say, the best places to buy Magic cards on the internet. They do daily auctions, including win it now, buy it now, whatever you want to call it, options. Primo, lovely auctions on the weekends. You will not believe the quality of those weekend auction cards. And you should definitely check them out. You can find them, like I said, on Facebook. They're a Facebook auction group. Or you can hit up jpmtgbazaar.com.au and you'll find them there too. Heartily recommend it. And I will be on my way after we finish recording to send Pat some money, because he has been very patient with some lots that I've won.
Fantastic. Well done. Yeah, Pat is fantastic. And he's really happy to stack up lots. So if you want to, buy things over a week or two and then pay some money and kind of bundle it all up, and he'll send them all out all at once. It's a great way to do it. And if you do win some auctions, let him know the beans. In this case, let him know Ty sent you, and we'll give him another gig. He can come back.
Oh, please. I love hearing my own voice in my car trips to work.
It's a lot of fun. So, mate, we are talking about our finals. We have reached the end of our current league.
Yes.
And I'm excited. We've got the top 8. So we played all the way through for the last month or so. We cut to a top 16, so the top 2 from each group. And now they have played through the first round of the double elimination bracket. And we've now got our top 8. So in a couple of days from recording, we will be doing the live stream and we will be going through all of these matches. But before we get into that, we've got deck lists. We've got the metagame. And you and I are here to break it down.
We are.
And you came with notes. You're ready.
Oh, I shouldn't have said that. I've set expectations too high. No, yeah, I was when Chewy asked me to cover for him and sent me the deck lists. I was super impressed and excited to cover this with you tonight, because we have some spicy meatballs, and the deck lists are, these are spoilers for the podcast ahead, less than 69% Esper, so we're already doing better than Worlds.
Correct. We definitely are. Maybe just to let everyone know, the beans are all fine. Stu's been in the country. He's been driving for like 4 or 5 hours today to do some work, which is always great fun. So he was getting home late. And Shorty and Chewy are busy prepping stream things for this weekend. So that is why they are not here. But all is well. No one's crook or anything like that. But yeah, happy to have Reese in and here to help us. So, mate, we thought we'd do it a little differently this time. Normally, Stu and I just kind of run through the lists as we see them. But this time we thought we'd start at the top of the upper bracket.
Yeah.
And have a look at the pairings and kind of put the 2 decks next to each other right from the start. And we will kind of go through and we can make some predictions on who we think. And I know you've gone pretty deep, maybe, in who we think might do well out of it. And but let's get straight into it. So the first pair we've got is Hemsey and Darkanis.
Darkanis,
we decided.
Yeah.
So Hemsey, no stranger to this. Hemsey is no stranger to this.
No.
He's played a million times in these finals, it feels like. Darkanis is new to our group, but certainly has lots of experience in, I believe the ESL is where they came from, and has done really well in some of those.
I feel like I've played him in Beans Leagues before, but maybe they were one-days.
Quite possibly.
Definitely name I recognise, yeah.
We've got Hemsey is playing Grixis.
Grixis, yeah. Grixis
and
range.
Darkanis is on, I mean, I guess you call it, I don't want to call it Naya because you've got 1 red card.
Yeah.
So it's Selesnya enchantments.
So Selesnya enchantments, but not as you know it. Do we want to start with Darkanis' list?
let's go for it.
Yeah, so I've taken to calling this one Haunting Catilda, and that's because the two key cards are Catilda, Dawnheart Martyr, and Hallowed Haunting, and also it just lets you sing Haunting Catilda, Haunting Catilda. Anyway, and that's an Aussie classic.
That's fantastic. That's actually the real national anthem of Australia.
Yeah, it is, absolutely. So I played against this deck, I'm pretty sure, in the groups. So I have a lot of experience losing to this deck, as some other members of our top 16 do.
Sure.
But I lost to most of the players in my group, so that doesn't tell you much. So this deck is one of the things that it doesn't really feel like, when you look at it on paper, it doesn't seem like it's that strong, because it's just like, it's one of these cards that you don't see very often. Rite of Harmony, Azusa's Many Journey. You do see a bit of Restoration of Arganjo, but certainly not Teachings of the Kirin. But it has an unexpectedly high amount of card draw for a Selesnya Enchantments deck that doesn't have, at the very least, I've just blanked on the name of the 1/1 enchantment that draws a card when it comes into play.
The dog?
Yes, that one.
Spirit Companion?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Rite of... what is it called? Sorry. Rite of Harmony is the little Selesnya engine that could, and does. Like, that card will draw him 2 to 4 cards every time he uses it, and he is really good at maneuvering his deck in a position to take advantage of his offbeat sagas that you don't see very often, and using that to generate just a tremendous amount of value in cards. I don't remember what I was playing at the time, but it was a typical Ties rock deck that just wanted to grind, and I just never got his cards in hand low enough where I felt like I was in any sort of control of the game.
Yeah, the problem with this kind of deck is, or with this deck specifically, is that you can't grind effectively against Wedding Announcement and Hallowed Haunting. Like, they just go too wide and too big, and all of a sudden they're just giant flyers, and then there's a Catilda out of nowhere, and it's a 50-50, it feels like, every time.
Yeah.
And you just need to have an answer. So, yeah, the Rite of Harmony is kind of, it's a 2-drop, but it's not. You play it on turn 6 or 7, and you just refill, and it does such good work. One of the cards you mentioned there is an offbeat saga is Teachings of the Kirin. So it's a 2-drop, it's 1 and a green. It does some things, but I think it's the backside that's the most interesting part for me, because when it attacks, it says exile target creature card from a graveyard. When you do create a 1/1 colorless spirit token, right? Perfect with Hallowed Haunting. Or when you exile a non-creature card from a graveyard, you put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. So it's doing both halves, but like it's incidental graveyard hate, which is amazing. Like, if you can snag an Underdog or some of the other stuff, and there's multiple cards that we see here with like Flashback or Unearth, that sort of thing in it. So I think this might be a little bit of a sleeper, mate.
Yeah, I was very impressed with this. Like, when he started playing Juko Naturalist against me, and then Hallowed Haunting, I thought I knew what I was doing, and then all of a sudden it just hits you from angles you do not expect. It's lures you into what you think is a safe neighborhood, and then all of a sudden you're in a back alley getting your lunch money stolen.
Yeah, it actually drags you into the deep waters surprisingly well. One card that I do notice that isn't in here, which has historically given me issues, probably because of the type of decks I like to play, is the Kami of, I think it's Kami of Transcendence, the one that grows every time.
Transience or Transcendence, one of the two.
That's the one, yeah. And that one gets really big and out of control. So it's interesting that this is not the more beat down version, right? This is kind of
go wide. Yeah,
it's a go wide mid range.
Really wants to go wide, yeah.
So as far as removal, we've just got 2 copies of Leyline Binding in the main, and I guess a Ganjo you can use as a removal spell if you need to, and a Beseiju for if there are any opposing kind of scary enchantments. But I don't imagine there'll be some of those, but not a lot. It's
not going to do it unless you get like disproportionately lucky to your opponent. You can't get off the back foot. If it gets behind, it struggles with that again, unless it has just a monster Rite of Harmony turn, which it definitely can. But you don't want to be cast. The one downside to those off meta sagas is that you don't want to be casting them when you need something better. Like, you want to be casting them while ahead. They don't do much while behind.
Yeah, they're not particularly good catch-up mechanics. So I'll be interested to see how this goes. Sideboard, kind of things that you would expect. some Arlens, some brilliant restorations, because why not? You get to do a bit of milling.
That can be devastating
spells.
if you Brilliant Restorator hits in any deck it's in. The one thing I did note in the sideboard as well is that it doesn't. This deck is obviously very permanent heavy, just by virtue of being a Hallowed Haunting deck. It doesn't present many instant speed solutions to problems. So again, that goes back to being doesn't play off the back foot well. And looks like he doesn't want to. He just wants to be asking questions. He doesn't want to ever have to answer them. The closest you'll come is the Anointed Peacekeepers.
Yeah, correct. And I'm not even sure which matchup they will come in for. And honestly, looking at this meta, maybe none. Maybe against the Gruul deck.
I might. Oh, it's so easy to kill though. I was going to say maybe it's good. It's theoretically good against Sheoldred, because Sheoldred itself is really good against this deck. That's one of the weaknesses of it. Is that
sure.
But again, it's only a 3/3, and most Sheoldred decks can kill Anointed Peacekeeper in their sleep.
Yeah. But, I mean, that's fine. That's none of our players, it's an open field. They don't know what they're going to encounter.
No, true.
So you've got to kind of hedge for everything. So, like you said, it's a Catilda deck. That's kind of your plan A. Hallowed Haunting plus Catilda is GG if left unchecked, right? Yes. And it's pretty easy to go wide enough that it becomes difficult for people to keep up. So, the person who's trying to keep up, the Doctor. Well, not that Doctor. He was on last week.
Yeah.
Check out that episode if you didn't, by the way.
Good app. Much better guest.
No. Very different guest. So, Hemsey. Hemsey has brought us a Grixis pile o' cards.
Yes. Value. There is much value to be had in this deck. And, strictly speaking, the better Fable of the Mirror Breaker deck.
I mean, it does seem like it's going to leverage it a little harder.
Yeah.
It's not trying to be not full Grixis either. So we've got Cut Downs, Rona's Vortexes, Blood Tithe Harvester, Infernal Grasp, Underdogs, Corpse Appraisers, Kaitos, Lilianas. Interesting to see Lilianas coming back again.
Yeah, and I've had a similar experience. He's playing the full 2. I've not enjoyed more than 2 in my decks. And when I've been building other lists too, I kind of imagined 2 just feels like the right number these days.
Yeah,
I imagine, of course, as the meta evolves, that will change. But I liked it only having 2. It gives him a good diversity of Planeswalkers in his main deck.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a really good package here. There's 5, right? So we've got 2 Kaitos, 2 Lilies, and 1 Ob.
Yeah.
And then there's also an Urtai, a Sheoldred, and Solkana the Tainted.
So, this is... I've actually put that...
So you've played this one a little bit. You were just playing it before. Where do you want to start? Tell me about this deck.
So, like I said, it's got a lot of value. Like I said as well, I love the diversity of the Planeswalkers in the main deck. It's the shrewd use of Make Disappear will allow Hemsey to dictate what part of the battlefield matters. The deck is naturally good against low number, high impact creatures, like you might see out of, say, like a Esper deck. If it's a deck that's got you never want to target Raffine with single target removal, but you still can. So if you just want to be pinging away Raffines and Sheoldreds while your side of the board gets to work, he's going to be really good against that. And then from there you can dictate where you want to fight with Make Disappear. So I actually think I'm lower on Make Disappear than others, but this is a really good Make Disappear deck, as weird as that sounds. Urtai in particular, I'm going to start with this because this is a recurring theme in this top 8. And maybe that in itself should tell me that what I'm about to say is wrong, but I think this card's a bit... I don't want to use too nasty words. I think it's a bit crap.
Okay.
It's a bit underwhelming, I guess, would be the more polite way to say it. And it's not just because I don't like giving the opponent a card. I feel like it's more annoying than good.
Interesting.
So
do you think this is a card that everyone knows, or should we read it really quickly? Let me read it. It's read 2 blue-black. It's a 3/2 with flash. And it says, when Urtai Resurrected enters the battlefield, choose up to 1. So you don't have to choose 1, which is sometimes the valid thing. And it says, counter target spell, activated ability, or triggered ability. Its controller draws a card. And the second one is destroy another target creature or planeswalker. Its controller draws a card. I understand what you're saying. It's a charm, though.
Yeah.
And charms always seem to be a little bit underwhelming, but there's a lot of flexibility here. Like a 3/2 flash,
the strength of the card.
Like a 3/2 flash that you can put into play during their, declare attacker's step. You block something, you know, you Chupacabra or something. I'm trying to think of what Shriekmaw or, like any of those kind of things where it comes in and gets to kill something. Like, that's a 2-for-1. Now, sort of. Like you said, the fact that you have to let them draw a card is a big downside. And, like, I don't disagree with that. But if you're going to be the make disappear deck, that was one of the things I loved about Brazen Borrower so much, was that I could hold up counter magic and have a flash threat.
Yeah.
It was the way that I really like to play those sort of games. I like having one because you holding up 4 mana could be, I don't know. Is it a make disappear? Is it a removal spell? Is it this? Is it nothing? Like, is it just a bank buster activation? So it kind of puts the fear into your opponent a little bit. And these deck lists are obviously open to all of our players now. So, Darkanus is going to see that one-of, and it might just make him think a little bit. So, I don't know. I haven't played with the card. It's not something that I've seen a lot. Obviously, it's been picking up steam a little bit in popularity. It shows up a couple more times in these lists. So, I'm definitely interested to see how it plays out.
Honestly, like, I just keep finding that the 3/2 half of it is much more scary than anything it does on Enter the Battlefield.
Yeah, and that's sometimes valid, right?
It's
like,
still
sometimes
like,
it's just
3/2 flash is still a good for 4 is still not a bad deal.
Yeah, it's a little bit underrated, but given all the other things it can do if you need it to, I think it seems pretty good. There's actually another one in the board as well. Just looking at that now.
If it was not legendary, I'd be much more on board, because then it's just monstrous with Fable and Mirror Breaker.
Yes, that would be gross.
Yeah. And the other thing I'd thought of that I hadn't thought of before I'd made my notes on that card particularly was counters Channel Lands, which I didn't think of before.
Because it's activated abilities.
It's an activated ability, yeah.
Yeah, correct. You can even flash it in and counter a Planeswalker activation as well.
Yes.
So there's a lot that it does there, which is why it reminds me kind of a Charm, where they've usually got like 3 modes or whatever.
So maybe I didn't give it the full credit it deserves. But I also am very...
Tell me about the big boy.
Sulkanar. So I don't have the card in front of me. If you would be so kind as to read that too.
Sure. So it is 2 and Grixis, so blue, black, red, for a 5/5. And it says, at the beginning of your end step, choose one that hasn't been chosen. Draw a card. Each opponent loses 2 life, you gain 2 life. Sulkanar, the Tainter, deals 3 damage to up to one other target creature or planeswalker. And then exile Sulkanar and return it to the battlefield under an opponent's control. So it triggers on the end step, which is interesting, because a lot of these effects normally trigger on your upkeep. Yeah. So you really don't get him for many turns. You cast it, it triggers immediately, so you draw a card. So then you've got 2 turns with him, whatever this elemental demon is, to get your opponent dead before they get it. And then they get all the other sides of it. So you kind of don't... I mean, I assume you just swing with it every turn.
Yeah, I think it's just like... And this is like kind of self-evident. You need to be able to win the game before it flips. Because...
100%.
It is... When you're playing a value deck, you can't be giving this much value to your opponent. And everything else he has... except Sheoldred and Sulkanar and the other copy of Sulkanar, dies to the Flame Tongue Kavu effect. So you're just giving your opponent Flame Tongue Kavu. But it has haste because it passes on end step. So it doesn't have summoning sickness effectively.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point actually, and that's why when I read it the first time I was like, oh, okay, like you get 3 turns with it and then it goes to your opponent and then they don't get it. But the fact that it triggers on end step is good because it means that you get the immediate reward. So you never get blown out by casting it for 5 and then getting effectively enters the battlefield. You cast it in your second main, you pass, you get it straight away. So they need an instant speed removal. And hopefully you've kind of drawn that out already with your other threats as well. So, it's a big boy, right? I mean, this is just keyword big.
Yeah.
And this deck is kind of lacking keyword big. It's only got 1 Sheoldred.
Yeah, that's odd. It does have more on the sideboard, right? Yeah, 2 more on the sideboard.
It does.
It does feel weird having 2 Sulkanar main and 2 Sheoldred sideboard. Like, I don't know. I will defer to Hemsy in every situation.
Yeah, he's definitely better than I am.
I would have put my first thought when I was making notes on this deck is I would have put flipped them around and just played all of my Sheoldreds in the main. But then I thought, when am I ever going to bring Sulkanar in?
I like the versatility of what it does.
Yeah,
and I think
that's right, yeah.
I think I'm kind of I would have flipped the numbers. I would have played 2 Sheoldreds and 1 Solkanar.
Okay.
It feels like, Sheoldred just closes games so fast.
Yeah. Obnixilis also loves Solkanar. So that's the other... You're much more inclined to want to eat Solkanar than Sheoldred with Obnixilis.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you've only got 1 Ob, but yeah, if you do get to live that dream of, well, I'm going to have to give it to you. I have 2 Obnixilises now. And they're both almost ready to ult. Yeah, seems good. All right, so, prediction. Who do you like?
I love Darkhanus' deck, but I am deferring to player on this. I don't think any differences in how much I like or differences I see in the deck can overcome that. I think Hemsey is on a very short list of top players in the league, and I will take him over almost anyone.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm just looking at 2, 4, 6. There's just so many removal spells. This deck has just got so much interaction.
Hemsey's sideboard's also really good against Darkhanus in particular. Like, those Duresses are going to, like, you don't...
And Negate.
Weird is Duress is going to be doing work, Negate, Disdainful Stroke, maybe get, take a drink of juice every time I say Disdainful Stroke in this podcast. I think it's huge in this particular top 8 meta, and always favour the deck with Disdainful Stroke against the deck that doesn't have it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and
everyone's
I think it's... I think I have to agree with you. I just don't know that... The fact that Darkhanus has, like, almost no way of interacting with this Grixis deck, these creatures all just accrue so much value the more that they are left alone. Like, a Sheoldred that just sits there just wins the game.
Yep. And
the fact that he can sit behind that, literally not even attacking, and then just hold up counter magic or removal spells for Catilda or for, the Hallowed Hauntings. I think it'll go to 3 games. I think it'll be close, but I think that the Grixis pile might have the edge.
Yeah, and as a bit of foreshadowing, Hemsey can win game 1. It's not like...
Sure, of course.
And I have him favoured after board. So that's the other part of the reason. So firstly, favour Hemsey on player, no disrespect intended to Darkhanus. But also I have Hemsey favoured after board, and he can still win game 1.
Nice. All right, so next pair, we have got Tom D and the Sweet Man. And we have got Tom D is on...
One of our 2 Esper decks.
He's on Esper.
But I don't think... I've never seen an Esper list like this, and this really intrigued me. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. No, go for it.
Sweetman.
So, yeah, and the Sweetman is playing...
2/3 of that.
Exactly. It's black-white. So let's start with Tom's list.
I really like it. So it's Esper, but not as I've seen before. I haven't had a lot of chance to process all of the Esper lists that were at Worlds, for example, so it might have been based on something there. Mm-hmm. But it is 3 spell Esper, is what I'd nickname it, because it has 3 Infernal Grasp, and then lands and creatures.
So this one's been called Esper Legends, and if you have a look, every creature is a legend.
Is legend. And also the reason why I was thinking it was 3 spell Esper is because it is getting a lot of value out of Talia.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So, yeah, we've got 4 copies of Denic, 3 copies of Infernal Grasp, 4 of Thalia, 3 Adelines, 4 of Fiends, 3 Toulouse, 3 Airties, 3 Ratadabic, which I definitely had to read before, 4 Sheoldreds, and 2 Owls.
This top 8 is the new Ratadabic meta. I love this innovation.
So
I don't know if it's in the Plaza decks normally, but I love this.
So, I'm going to read this one out because I had no idea what it did. So, it is 2 white black for a 3/3 with Vigilance and Ward 2. And it says, other zombies you control have Vigilance. And I was like, okay. So, I immediately looked at all the other creatures and went, none of them are zombies. But there's more text on the card. It says, whenever another legendary creature you control dies, create a token that's a copy of that creature, except it's not legendary. And it's a 2/2 black zombie in addition to its other colours and types. So he's playing to the board and just kind of doesn't care. And then you've got Ow at the top end to just rebuy a bunch of stuff as well.
So it doesn't, in every sense of the phrase, it doesn't mind getting swept unless the sweeper is farewell.
Yes, that is true.
But in any other situation, and there are not a lot of farewells in this top 8.
No.
And there is quite a bit of removal that does not remove. There's a scattered couple of soul transfers and farewell and the enchantments that remove enter the battlefield and nothing else exiles. So this deck has 31 creatures, and he does not mind getting Wrath burnt. He doesn't mind his house getting burnt down. Doesn't mind getting Infernal Grasp, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I don't know what else there is to say about this. I mean, you kind of know what all these creatures do. I mean, like Rafine's uncontended, get way out of hand. Rafine's plus Adeline is disgusting.
Denic plus Rafine is also a very good combo because, just Lifelink plus Rafine's a good combo. The Rafine Toulouse package is not bad at all. I quite like that because Toulouse triggers off Rafine's Connive as well. For those who don't know, Toulouse is the card that Rafine it connives when it enters the battlefield, and every time you discard cards, it goes effectively, or as Arena will show you, goes under Toulouse, and when Toulouse dies, you get all the cards back. So it's a... What's the red one drop? The old one?
Yeah. I know the one you mean. It was colorless. The artifact,
yes.
The hasty boy. Yeah.
I've closed my arena, so I can't. Yeah,
that's all right.
But yeah, that one. But except you get to know what you're getting. So, so it's those two cards work really well together. Because it's got low spells, it also has fairly low interaction, which is not. And also, this note that I've written now looks out of place because I've done a bit of a turnaround on the card. But one of the downsides I wrote was 3 Otai.
Yeah, but that's your removal spell, right?
Yeah,
so you
that's
effectively
fair.
you have 6 removal spells, and
the old legend creature package has a. I mean, I just blanked on. Dr. Linden's will cringe when I say this, but there is a low chance that you will get creature locked in your draws with an all legend package. If you draw 3 creatures, but you can only cast 2 of them, now your board development options are limited. Mathematically, that shouldn't happen more often than it does, so that you'd be unlucky to have that happen to you. And again, these guys are in the upper bracket, so you wouldn't expect to bomb out of a tournament because of that, but it is something that may come up in an individual game.
100%. And look, variance is definitely a thing, and you will end up with those awkward draws. Some of these you really don't mind having multiple copies of, like Thalia, for example.
Yeah.
Like, it's such a pain that people have to invest resources to get rid of it. And then the second one, as someone who has lost to the second copy of Thalia multiple times, can be backbreaking. Like, it can just set the opponent back far enough. Like this against Darkanus' deck.
Yes, blow out.
Good night, sweetheart. Like, you're just playing so far behind, and each of these threats is just something you can deal with. And if you can, put a bunch of stuff under Toulouse and then rebuy them all. Yeah, seems really strong. So, anything else you wanted to mention about Tom's deck before we move on to
sideboard? Has thumbs up, just Disdainful Stroke. A lot of diverse options. There's a lot of 1 and 2-ofs in it. How do you board a legend deck? Do you just skim numbers off the top, or do you sure, sometimes individual legends you're going to be able to sideboard out all of them, but otherwise it's a bit weird to sideboard a legend deck. And low exile options. No Farewell, no Soul Transfer, and only a couple of copies of Wandering Emperor. So, as much as his deck doesn't, is happy that there's not a lot of Farewells, if he ever needs to be on the other side, he also can't do that. But mind you, he also, he's anti-Farewell in general, I guess, so.
Yeah, I mean, he is...
Deal.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be the game plan. Alright, so we've then got the Sweepman. The Sweepman is playing Orzhov. And what do you think about this one?
I think it would be doing a disservice to Sweetman to just come from an Esper deck and then go to an Orzhov deck and just say it's a worse, in this format you can play 3 colors, so you should. There are some things that not committing to the third color it opens. So, like the Rite of Oblivion. Now, of course, all of the Esper decks can cast Rite of Oblivion, but you're going for power rather than I guess that's power versus versatility is not the right dynamic that I want to compare to here, but you won't see an Esper deck typically go towards that unless for some reason they're like Esper tokens and you have spare creatures to chuck away to it.
Yeah.
So this enables Rite of Oblivion, and he does lean into it a bit. He's got Wedding Announcement and Adeline, and those look like primary win conditions, so he'll have creatures to spare to it.
Even sacking Underdog is not the worst thing if you have to. If you get a real pinch, that's something you can do.
And he is one of the few 4x Tenacious Underdog decks in the top 8 as well.
Yeah.
I love Sarah Paragon. In the early part of the format, in particular before the blue decks became big, the mono blue decks that is, I thought that it was a Sarah Paragon format. And just built, whenever I had 5 minutes of work, I would be drawing up Sarah Paragon decks in whatever color combination you can think of.
Sure.
He's only got one, but still, that's probably correct as it turns out. This deck gets a lot of value from that. And don't underestimate Elas Ilkor Sadistic Pilgrim. One of the annoying things about dealing with Sheoldred is that if you want to fight it in combat, it's always going to trade because it has Death Touch. This is a baby Sheoldred in that sense, and in itself brawls with Sheoldred very well.
Sure.
So while he's got no shortage of options to Sheoldred, if he doesn't have one, Elas Ilkor will stop Sheoldred entering the red zone. It will slow down that clock.
Yeah, which is really important. And, it's got the like you said, the mini Sheoldred ability where you can gain some life and drain a little bit.
Yes.
So some interesting numbers here. 3 Lilianas, leaning into that a little harder, and just all about Sheoldreds. We've got the full 4.
Yeah.
And then, 2 Wandering Emperors, and then 2 Owls, the Dawn Sky as well, right at the top end. Interesting. Focus. More beatdown.
Yeah, I was going to say, this deck this is a curve deck almost. Like, you want to, you're doing
playing
backflips.
A 2-drop on 2 every game.
Yes.
Every game.
You want to go 2-drop into Adeline, into Sheoldred if you can every game, and anything else is ancillary to that almost. Maybe not literally every game, but that would be a good day's work for his deck. It seems like.
Correct, and will just cause enough problems for everyone to be able to kind of deal with. I mean, I've been saying for the longest time that Underdog is just a house. It's just kind of the glue that has held these decks together for so long. I think it's interesting, and I can see why people have shaved on it. They're going a little bigger.
Yeah.
But this kind of... looking at the actual deck list and the way that I've got just kind of the mana values set out, it's a really nice curve. You're stacked all the way through. It doesn't feel like it's the smaller mid-range deck.
No.
Because it goes up to Owl, and you've got Sarah Paragon, the giant Lurrus effect where you just get to rebuy your things. Yeah. So it doesn't feel like it's going to, gas out. And like Wandering Emperor is just, that can solo games if left.
Yeah, if your opponent forgets about it or doesn't play around it. Even just the +1, like I've been blown out by the +1 more than I've been blown out by the -2. Like it feels like every one of those cards' abilities is just a total blowout if you're not preparing for it.
Yeah, super powerful. Sideboard, just a stack more removal spells.
Yep.
Some discard in Pilfer. Interesting that it's Pilfer instead of Duress.
Yeah, I was. Does that exile the card, or does it just hit more things?
No, it's 1 and a black. Target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a non-main from it that player discards.
Okay, so it can hit.
So it's Thoughtseize kind of thing instead of. Yep. Yeah, so interesting because there is a lot of removal that they have access to as well.
And the interesting card that I haven't seen a lot of until mostly this top 8 actually is Knockout Blow, which is really good against. What's the red? I've said it 7 times already tonight.
The Kaiju as well.
Yes, good against that, and very good against Fable of the Mirror Breaker.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, Knockout Blow, 2 and a white for an instant. It costs 2 less if it targets a red creature, and it deals 4 damage to target attacking or blocking creature, and you gain 2 life. So. Seems really good in certain matchups. And we do have Gruul as one of the decks that's in our top 8.
That's right.
And there's a bunch of hasty red threats that, like trading 1 mana for 4 and gaining 2 seems excellent against that if it.
And Stormseeker, I've just remembered, Reckless Stormseeker or whatever the Stormseeker is, that
that's
it just kills that gain 2, and Gruul doesn't want to see either of those things for 1 mana.
No. Doesn't want its creatures to die and doesn't want you to gain life. All right. But we are talking about Esper and Orzhov. Who do you like? What do you think is going to be the pick here?
In this one I have Tom Day. He just has more options. And this is this is on the lower end, but one of the things as well that I wanted to mention specifically about Tom D's and his Thalia choice is 6 out of 7 of these decks that are not obviously himself, really don't want to see an active Thalia because they're at least a quarter non-creature spells, and this is one of them. It's on the lower end, but I think that the combination of Thalia and the options from the 3rd color is just going to be a bit too much for Sweetman to overcome unless he is a sweet man with those curve draws. Bottom Tish. See, Chewy's really here.
Oh, there you go. So interesting thing with Thalia as well is that it just stonewalls all his early aggression from the Sweet Man because it's got First Strike.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter if Ellis has got Death Touch because it never
Yes.
gets to deal damage, and you get rid of underdogs really cleanly as well.
Yep.
So
100%.
yeah, if we see early Thalias out of Tom, and he has 4, that is definitely his game plan, then I can see that making it a tough time for the Sweet Man to keep up. But again, I think this one's going to be super close, and I don't know. I do wonder whether that the Sweet Man might just have too much removal.
That's possible, and his deck also goes long better than Tom's does, I think. I'm just going to have a quick look. Especially after board, there's not a lot of... I sort of touched on it. I didn't do a very good job of what I was trying to say.
Sure.
Doesn't do a good job of getting things out of the graveyard, and Sweetman's deck, particularly, unless he kills the Paragon enough times that he can't bring it back. For example, there's a Takenuma in Sweetman's deck as well. If he can't answer Sarah Paragon, he cannot outlast it.
Yeah, that's really valid. So yeah, I don't know. I think this one's it almost feels like a bit of a coin flip, to be honest with you.
I have Tom favored, but the Sweetman is not without action in this matchup by any stretch. He is in with a big shot,
which is what we want to hear. All right, so we're now down into the lower bracket, and man, are these some heavy hitters? I don't know how.
Yeah, this is a rough lower bracket.
These, I mean, it's a tough finals, but I mean that's good for me. I just get to commentate Sweet Magic.
Yeah.
So we have got Map, who is playing the Gruul deck we were talking about before, versus currently or very recently #1 mythic ranked player in the world, Jedi Walker, who has brought another variety of Esper.
Yes.
So let's talk about Map, who is also a mythic level player and just excellent at the game. Gruul, they're bringing the beats, man. Ascendant Pack Leader, Phoenix Chick, Kumano faces Kakazan, Lightning Strike, Storm Seekers, and then up to Helena and Elena, and also Thundering Raijus.
So yeah, this deck does what it says on the box. It's a red-green beatdown deck with only 7 spells, so you know what it's going to do, and it's not going to surprise anyone. And it does it very well. And if you can't go wide on strategies, go deep, because this deck is very deep and has a little bit of reach, not as much as you'd like, but it can punch out of nowhere with its reach as well. So stabilizing the board is not always enough. So yeah, as mentioned, only 7 non-creature spells resist Thalia very well. There's a good number of good non-creature spells in red and grey that you might be tempted to play, even in a beatdown deck, and he's done a good job of resisting that temptation. Query and Beastcaller really messes with your head when you're trying to do combat math and board state math at the same time. It's a really difficult card to play around. Yeah. And Helena and Elena, or I used to always for some reason say Olena, like from Game of Thrones, but maybe that's because both Olena and this card are badasses. That thing's an absolute beating, especially with Raiju. They're just throwing counters around like it ain't no thing. Especially with Beastcaller which memory serves, Beastcaller is the one that helps throw counters around.
Correct, yeah. When it dies, you put +1/+1 counters on the number of counters that was on it. So whenever you cast a creature spell, it gets +1/+1 counter. So it starts as a 2/2 for 2 and then grows every time you cast a creature.
Yep.
Like you said, not a lot of removal spells. We've got, or just non-creature spells. We've got 7. And, I mean, the perfect draw with this deck is to go like turn 1 Kumano, turn 2 Phoenix Chicks, attack for 4 on turn 2, right? And the other card that we've got is Lightning Strike. So no Lightning Strike goes face. And I think that's a really important thing here, is that it's that little bit of extra reach that sometimes you just need in these decks where it's predominantly a removal spell, but at the same time, you're also happy to just Lightning Strike, untap Lightning Strike, attack you with a Raiju, and just
all of a sudden
out of stone nowhere. Like you've literally just hit it for 10. And people who think that they've stabilized, if they don't have a Rafine back to block, can be good night.
The other card that's really good here that's a bit underappreciated, and it's going to come with so in a Gruul deck, you've got Old Faithful, Reckless Stormseeker that we talked about before, but only 2 copies. And I think the reason for that is that Yavimaya Iconoclast is in here as a full set, and that card is excellent in Limited for those who have played it, and I think it's excellent in Constructed as well. I love drawing this card in Constructed. It feels, it's so versatile. Which is weird, because its versatility is 2-drop or 3-drop, but it's excellent on 2, and it's real good on 3.
Yeah, 100%. And that's a really good point to highlight, is that it's not actually, a 2-drop as such. You've already got 8 others in 2-drop creatures in the Lone Speaker and the Beast Caller. So you really do want to play it on 3 most of the time. So it comes down as, a 4/3 with haste.
Yeah.
Which is just huge. And trample. So yeah, that card is absolute house. I expect to see that do a lot of work. And again, you're talking about reach. That is,
yeah, that's your reach.
That's a reach effect.
And Halana and Elena. So I did it again. Halana and Elena loves Iconoclast.
Absolutely,
because it doesn't need to wait till nighttime to trample.
Yep, exactly right. Unlike the Stormseeker.
Wait, does the Stormseeker trample or first strike when it flips? It gives trample. Gives trample.
It gives trample and haste.
Yeah, that's it.
When it flips. Yeah. So, pretty straightforward. No surprises here. We've got a couple of Arlands, a couple of Flame Burst Bolts in the board.
Love that card. That card's excellent.
It's really good. A couple of Bankbusters, Rending Flames.
Rending Flame is... I just want to pause on this one. Sorry to cut you off.
Go for it.
That card's phenomenal. If you're not playing that in your red deck sideboards, do so. That card is your Shielded defense.
Yeah, so it deals 5. It's 2 and a red, deal 5 to creature or planeswalker. If that permanent is a spirit, it also deals 2 to that permanent's control.
That in itself is not irrelevant in this top 8. You're mainly putting it in there because it's a deal 5 at decent value. But even if Matt can find himself to at least 1 win, you need a minimum of 1 win to find Darkanus, for example. He's going to love finding those Rending Flames. Are going to love seeing Darkanus as creatures.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, one of the ways that you'll win with this deck is to kill one of the flying spirits, make them all fall to the ground, and then deal those extra couple of points, and away you go. But we don't have that matchup. We have got...
No, not yet.
Jedi's Walker on Esper.
Yes, that's right. And getting my personal bias out of the way, this, I think, is the best deck list in the top 8.
Okay.
Just...
Tell me why.
In a vacuum. It's the best deck, which is Esper, despite what the finals of the World Championship told us. I still think Esper is overall the best. It's got Radadrabic, which is the what I'm going to call the hit all-star of this top 8. But only 1 copy.
Yep.
But I really like the mix of non-creature spells. It's the next lowest after Map in terms of non-creature spells to deal with the Mirror's Thalias. And I really love the main deck Rona's Vortex. I wasn't a fan of that card until I got to cast it a couple of times in Constructed. And I think that card is going to be really excellent. There's a lot of powerful tokens that it's good against, and which is good against casting at 1 and kicking it. You're never sad to kick it. So despite me being not the biggest fan of Make Disappear in this format, and he's got the full 4, I just think this does everything that you want a deck to do, and I think it's been tuned the best. It's got 4 ofs and 1 ofs and 2 ofs in almost every place where I would expect to see it. I think this is a beautifully designed deck. Yeah,
it's definitely very focused and very well thought through. Mind you, this isn't the deck that Jedi's ran to Mythic. He did take Grixis to the top there, and I think he was like, I think I made a mistake. But this is leaning more towards the control mid-range.
Yes, definitely.
End. So we've only got the 1 2-drop in a single copy of Underdog. Oh, sorry, no, there's Denix as well. Apologies. But we've got Destroy Evils, Make Disappears, Rona's Vortexes, leaning into Wedding Announcements as well.
Yes.
The full 4 of, which is really strong.
Plenty to do on the early turns to threaten the board.
Yeah, but then 4 Shielded, we mean it. 2 Owls as well to rebuy things. So, and Rafine's, again, everyone knows what that card does. And how strong that is. Plus Kaito's to just kind of refill. So, really, really powerful stuff here. And, you said before, if it comes down to player skill, this dude is the reigning champion for a reason.
Exactly. The other thing as well, I just want to point out on the deck list that makes the WoW list so love how well tuned it is that it has 27 land, which is not remarkable in and of itself, other than that it's the highest number. but he also has 3 copies of Iganjo, 3 copies of Otawara, and 2 copies of Takanuma. And that identifies that he is intending that many land with that many channel lands is identifying that he intends to use those as spells, and he has accounted for that to still develop his mana. And a lot of people, myself definitely included, sometimes forget that if you're going to use your lands as spells, you cannot use them as lands.
Correct. Yeah, so when you see lists with 24 lands and 4 copies of these things, it's like, well, you're going to get to use one of them before you start falling really far behind. So, yeah, the Jedi's is not going to miss land drops. And that's, has always been not necessarily well identified, but has always been like the most important part about Magic, right? Yeah. Is playing a land every turn, for the most part, particularly in this style of deck. The quicker you can double spell with the power of these individual spells, it's gross. Cool. All right, so can Gruul get underneath, I guess is the question.
Definitely can. This matchup's really close. I have got Jedi's winning this match. In particular because he correctly identifies that he has to play Who's the Beatdown in deck construction. His sideboard is really good against Gruul. He has, not only does he have Farewells coming in, only 2, but he also has my favourite sweeper, Depopulate. And that's another excellent card. He also has Wandering Emperor coming in for that matchup. The only thumbs down I have in his sideboard, for instance, is no Disdainful Drink. And it's not going to help him in the matchup, but I also... No, not at all, really. I love that he has Pithing Needle as well on the sideboard, just on a buy them by. But back to the matchup, I think that the limited interaction and reach of Map's deck actually really hurts him against Jedi's Walker, because it's really hard to get into the red zone against some of these creatures. Like Raffine is a huge blocker, big butt, Sheoldred, big butt, Death Touch, huge power as well. Destroy Evil's in the main deck, and the Rona's Vortexes are going to be superb against the Gruul deck. So it's just got everything you would want in that matchup. I think Map's deck is really good, and it, like I said, it handled me quite comfortably in the groups. But I just think this is a horrendous matchup, to be honest. I could be wrong, but that's how I see it.
No. So we've kind of done like the player profiles that we always do, and we always ask them, like, what do you want to see? What don't you want to see? And Map has said, worst matchup, Sheoldred. I have some bad news for you, buddy. There are 4 Sheoldreds in your opponent's deck, and he is very willing and happy to use all of them against you. So, yeah, there's no clean way to deal with that. So you kind of have to race it and hope that you can get underneath it.
My best tip for Map is win the dice roll.
Yeah. Win game 1 and cross your fingers.
Win game 1 and make him, and then hope that your Rending Flames come to play. It feels like that's a low hope plan, but it's an actionable plan, because Red Green can and will beat anyone on the play, and you will feel like you had no chance, no matter how good you felt your draw was.
100%.
So
I look forward to commentating this one.
Yeah, strong favour to Jedi's, but if he wins game 1 in Gruul fashion, if Map wins game 1 in Gruul fashion, then Jedi's will be sweating almost as much as I am here in Perth right now. For all of our Perth listeners, it's a warm Thursday evening.
Mate, it is.
Or for our non-Perth listeners, I should say.
It is. It's been like 13 degrees today or something like that. It's been miserable this week here in Melbourne, but that's okay. All right, so we're into our final pair, and we have got Azzy G and Penchair.
Yes.
So Penchair, Calvin, is playing Jund, and Azzy G is playing Bant.
Bant Festival.
So spicy lists here. Let's start off with Calvin's list.
Okay.
With Penchair. So Jund, we've got... There's a whole stack of different ways you can build Jund. It feels like it's really versatile, and this one is an interesting mix.
So there's 3 things in particular that really stand out about his particular list. Well, 4, depending on how you want to look at it. And I really like the way he's tuned this list. I've been trying to build Jund so many different ways since Dominaria dropped, and I've never been happy with any way I've built it, and I really like the way that Penchair's built this.
So what do you like about this one? What do you feel like this has got that yours didn't?
So the first and foremost, I think Briarbridge Tracker is really underrated. It hits hard, plays D, and gets you a card if you lose it. It is also, I think, one of the best Fable of the Mirror Break, or Mirror of what's the final form called? The flipped version. I think it's one of the best targets for that, because you just keep giving yourself cards on top of the 4-power hasty attacker. The three things that sort of work together that I love about this particular build is having, it's only one copy, but having Workshop Warchief. Again, another excellent Fable of the Mirror Breaker target, and really helps your deck brawl and play mid-range. It's value, it's big creatures, does a lot of things that you're going to ask. For example, it brawls with Sheldred and leaves a big body behind it.
And gains your life on the way in as well.
Yes. Unleash Inferno in the main deck, especially 3 copies, big thumbs up. If I had 3 hands, I'd give 1 thumbs up for each copy of Unleashed Inferno in the main deck. Love that card.
Sure.
And I really love this. I actually do this myself, so maybe it's a bit of bias that I say that I love this, but I love the 5 copies of Cut Down and Grasp Split, and it's a personal favourite of mine. That's also how I typically split them, is 3 Cut Down, 2 Infernal Grasp as well. And Riveteer's Charm has endless versatility. And lastly, this is the best overall Fable of the Mirror Breaker deck. I said something similar earlier, but I meant of the 2 Fable of the Mirror Breaker decks against each other.
Sure.
This is the
so
best. This is the best Fable deck.
One?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. Interesting. Because it doesn't have the reanimation package that sometimes you see in the Jund lists.
No,
and it's not playing Soul of Windgrace, which it also you see in the Jund list sometimes too. But one thing that it is doing, and this is the first time we've seen this card, Invoke Despair.
Yeah, that was the other thing that I hadn't mentioned, is that if you can fit it in your Jund decks, great, and he seems to be able to. And we'll maybe... and the main reason for that, for those of you who are looking at the deck list along with us while we talk, he has the full 8 slow lands, so Deathcap Glade and Haunted Ridge, and 3 Sulphurous Springs, so almost all of his 2-colour lands are making black mana.
And you've also got the 4 Triomes, the Proving Grounds as well. So, interesting, because Invoke was the staple for so long in all these black decks. It was kind of the top end, and there's no mono black in this top 8, which is also interesting, because I think that certainly had a place for a long time. Feels like it's dropped off a little bit. This deck is... It's just doing Jund things, man.
Yeah, and that's probably why I like it so much.
It's just the rock,
It's
right?
the rock, yeah, exactly. It's the rock. And no matter what the format is, I will find the rock and play it. So I'm going to be drawn to this deck.
Sure.
It doesn't... The thing is as much as it's got individual card choices that I like, and I love the way that he's built it for a Jund deck, it kind of feels low on raw power. Got a lot of versatility and a lot of good stuff going on, but with the exception of probably Invoke, it doesn't have as much punch you in the face power as I feel like it could, and most namely only 2 copies of Sheldred.
Yep.
And
does it have a copy of Sorin though?
So I don't rate Sorin.
Okay.
I think Sorin needs another Planeswalker to be at its best. Sorin is awesome when it's the second best Planeswalker that you have, because it doesn't draw the removal and the hate, and then you get your vampire and you get to start Dark Confidenting.
Yeah, I just wonder whether there was room here for Liliana. I mean, there's 2 in the sideboard, but I just wonder whether you want your first Liliana over your... I don't know what you cut is the problem. Maybe your 4th Riveteer's Charm?
Possibly. The number swap that's jumping out to me is Reckoner Bankbuster. But if you cut Reckoner Bankbuster, you're asking at least one of your Riveteer's Charms to be the Exile effect. So, and that doesn't feel good.
So the thing I like about Bankbuster plus Liliana is it means you're not actually down cards.
True.
So you get to keep up with it. But there is a bunch of ways to, like you've got Blood Tithe Harvester as well, which is sort of pseudo card draw with the cycling, blood
Bribery Tracker
like
will get you there as well.
Yeah, the Investigate tokens are really strong. So, I mean, this deck will Jund people out. It's I always find these decks hard to evaluate because it is a pile of cards in these colors, rather than looking at the Esper Legends package where I'm like, here is a series of the best legends at every point on the curve. I see how this game plan comes together. I understand what you're trying to do. Or like some of the, Grixis things where it's like I have just here are the different points of interaction. I've got all the best removal spells, counter magic, and then I finish it with, these really hard to deal with threats that are gaining me value. Like, that's easier for me to evaluate. Whereas this just feels, I understand
Same
how
with all the rock list, right? Like, you need to draw your right pile of cards. You've got cards
you've
that
got to draw the right half.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's the problem. Now, look, it does have some, like Fable, can easily bring you back into the game. It can draw you into the right half of the deck.
Yeah.
But it may be too slow as well. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see.
I think what this deck would love to do, and this is going to be a concept that's probably going to be a bit niche to our listeners, because it's something that I talk about in my esports world, in my esports life, where one of the ways to win a matchup in a 5 vs 5 game is you make the matchup about a particular role where you have an advantage. So I won't go into the specifics. This is not a MOBA podcast.
Sure.
But as it applies to this deck, what I think Calvin would love to do is play against a bunch of Fable of the Mirror Breakers decks, make the matchup about whose Fable is better, and he has the best Fable deck.
Okay.
And that's the pre-identified path to victory. Otherwise, I think it's just you've got to have the mental agility to be able to pilot the half of Jund that you draw on the spot, and that's challenging. Penchase/Calvin is an excellent player, and not just because he has the placings and play history to back that up. He definitely can do it. I just feel queasy tipping/expecting it to happen, because as good as he is, sometimes Jund is out of your hands.
Yeah, it's the 45% deck is kind of the old Jund joke, right? Like, it's exactly. On a good day it's 55%. It's that kind of very mid-range sort of thing. So, speaking of, I don't know if you can call this mid-range, but let's have a look at what Azzy G has brought to the table, because this is
the most exciting deck in the tournament.
This is some spice, man. We have got Bant Storm the Festival. So I'm just going to run through this real quick because there's a whole lot going on. We've got some Denix, Catilda, the Dawnheart Prime, so not the big Catilda, but the little one. We've got Root Coil Creepers, Teachings of the Kieran, Anointed Peacekeepers, Shana's Wedding Announcement, Grafted Identities.
You didn't expect to hear that this podcast, did you?
You know they want to steal some Sheoldreds.
Oh, yeah.
Grafted Identity of Storm the Festival has been a thing before, where you get to put it into play off the Storm, and you don't have to sacrifice your own creature to do it.
Oh, is that a cost to cast?
Correct, it's an additional casting cost, whereas the Storm the Festival just lets you play it. I was actually just on my way to look that up. Yep. We've got a Teferi Who Slows the Sunset, 3 copies of Wandering Emperor, and then Owls, Elspeths, Tamios, Ren, and 7. So,
yes.
Literally
all of the best planeswalkers for less than 6.
Everything in this deck can be hit by the Storm the Festivals.
Yes.
I mean, yeah.
Go.
Tell me, why do you love this?
It just does a lot of great things, right? So one of the things I want to highlight about this is this. I actually think this deck is really just wants to cast Anointed Peacekeeper, and it's not in there for Storm the Festival reasons. It's just because it beats. 2 Denic feels weird, but I really like that it's in there. I guess if I called the other one Waltzing Catilda, is this Nutbush Catilda? Because for the tiny version. No, I won't sing Nutbush. Anyone who was hoping for that? No, that was nobody. I don't know how I feel. I actually just think Recoil Creeper is just better.
Okay.
But there are other I guess reasons for that as well. Shana Purifying Blade I think is going to do a deceptive amount of work, because this deck doesn't gain a lot of life, but it just gains little plinks and plonks, and then if you're getting to trigger Shana at all, you're having a great time.
Yep.
Grafted Identity is a potential absolute house. As you mentioned, not like just whether you cast it or you flip it, or you prefer to flip it, but
well, you've got Wedding Announcements, so you're spitting out little tokens as well there, exactly. Which you're just happy to get rid of.
Storm is a value card. You're flipping over value creatures. It's just value palooza.
Well, I mean, this is a lot of Planeswalkers.
Yes. We've got Tamio in particular is a house if you're given room to operate.
We've got 8 Planeswalkers.
Yes.
Which is like
Old Boys could have. It would have been real tempting to put in Broker's Ascendancy as well.
Okay, that might be a bridge too far.
So I guess the holes in this deck as well is it's very limited in answers. There are no sweepers and only 2 different cards that answer 1-for-1 in the Wandering Emperor and Grafted Identity.
Mm-hmm.
It gains 1 sweeper after board.
Yep.
And some Destroy Evils, but it does have 3 Disdainful Strokes, which is the highest number we've seen so far. Drink.
Yes. It also picks up another Grafted Identity.
Yes.
If that's a thing. Also, are these the only copies of Hearst that we've seen in the sideboard?
Someone's got one.
I feel like they are.
Who's got...
But again, that was a card that saw a lot of play. Oh, Hemsey has got one.
Hemsey's got one, yeah.
Yeah.
I knew I'd read my notes.
Interesting that, again, I guess the fact that the Underdog has dropped off so much in popularity speaks to why you see less of that as a necessary thing. It's reasons to hit it.
So, one of the main things I love about this deck, to get back to I sort of jumped into things I didn't like.
No, go for it.
Is, actually I'll just touch on as well. The only other thing I didn't like was that, and it's a bit weird to do this with it, considering there's only one Teferi Who Slows the Sunset. But when I see Teferi Who Slows the Sunset, I like to see at least one copy of the Celestus, just to get, like, especially a deck like this, you're trying to generate all the value you can.
Sure.
And you've got mana acceleration out of your creatures, you should be putting an extra one in.
Okay.
Unless you were really worried about seeing cards like a Braid.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel like.
But I love seeing cards like the Celestus. It gives you that little bit of life that synergizes well with Shana, and it helps you dig for your key cards. There's a couple of two of copies of cards that you'd love to flip into your Storm or see otherwise, and so I love seeing the Celestus. But this deck is really good at attacking you from surprise alternate ways, just like different angles, like the Grafted Identity that we've said so much about, like. The first time, now this is open decklist, so it's not going to be as much of a surprise as it could be. But the first time you get Grafted Identity, it is a blowout because you cannot play around that card until the first time you get mauled with it. The other one is the sideboarded Intrepid Adversaries.
Mm-hmm.
This deck can go a little bit wide with its early drops and its wedding announcements.
Yep.
And so Intrepid Adversaries, both a really good card to cast and in the late game are a surprisingly good card to flip off Storm the Festival, because you still get it's an enter the battlefield trigger.
Yep.
So if you've got floating mana or mana left over, most of it white, it's a finisher as well. So it's a weird alternate win con that you wouldn't expect to be brought in as an alternate win con for this kind of deck.
I can definitely see that.
This deck is weirdly missing Brutal Cathar though. I feel like a Storm the Festival deck would love some number of copies of Brutal Cathar.
Yeah, particularly as it's just like. It's just plain. I mean, they are all permanents.
Yeah.
Right. Like, except for Storm the Festival, everything is a permanent. So yeah, it seems interesting that there's no, creature-based removal spell that we see in others. But what do you think about this one against Jund?
I have this winning this matchup.
Same.
Only because I don't particularly like the answers.
Yeah, I just don't think
Calvin's going to be bringing. He's really relying on his Graveyard Trespassers, I think, to stop subsequent storms. And if he can't get triggers if he can't hit Storm the Festival with Graveyard Trespasser, I don't see him getting enough of an advantage to be able to overwhelm the 6th, 7th, and 8th cast of Storm the Festival.
Yeah, but you've got to. I think he'll just get buried from the first one. Like
probably.
First time you cast Storm and you hit, like Elspeth plus Wrenn. It's just like how we were talking about the fact that like Jund doesn't have any particular great catch-up mechanism. It's kind of leading on the individual card quality, and none of it is as good as a Storm of the Festival that hits 2 5-drops or a 4-drop and a 5-drop. Like, it's just too much advantage. And
as good as Sheldred's passive abilities are, it doesn't fight Tamiyo very well.
Correct. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see, but there's also no way of, particularly in game 1, of stopping Storm from happening. Short of killing Azzy, and Azzy's just got too much early. He's got too many early creatures, and just sneaky life gain, right? To just kind of keep him alive to that point with Dennick and Shana, and then Anointed Peacekeeper holding down the fort as well. So I just don't see Calvin being able to get him dead fast enough.
I agree,
and none of the answers line up well enough against any of the things. I mean, Riveteer's Charm will make them sacrifice something. Like, you'll get one thing, but I mean, if you're flipping 2 Planeswalkers, and it just feels like it's Can it be done? 100%, of course. Like, we've all seen that a million times, but it certainly doesn't feel like it's in his favour. So I think Azzy G will have the goods on this one.
Another thing that's interesting that I've just noticed is that, just lastly, is that this is the heaviest presence of the Wandering Emperor. 3 all in the main. Now, I think there's a couple of decks that get to 3 after sideboarding. I'm just trying to find that to confirm. But every other deck tops out at 2 in the main deck.
Yeah, no, you're correct. Jedi's goes up to not only 2 in the sideboard, he's got none in the main. So yeah, I think you're right. And look, Emperor is an excellent card. She does a lot.
Sweetman has 2 main, but none sideboard. So yeah, it's just straight up the most.
All right. So, as I keep telling you, our job here is to make wild predictions and stand boldly behind them. Who do you like? Who is gonna win?
So I still haven't decided yet. So my bracket, I have my initial draft of the bracket. I had Tom D winning. And then I played his deck one time, one best of 3 on Arena, and I thought now that it stinks. Okay. So there's your wild prediction, is that despite all of Tom D's success and my lack thereof in this event, and Tom D playing this deck and is still in the upper half of the bracket, that
your
deck
sample
stinks.
size of 1 is outweighs his. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. So he is going to beat Sweetman, like I said, but then loss out.
Okay.
Sorry, Tom D's the AV cable. Sorry. So Tom D beats the Sweetman. I can't read my own bracket. Oh, here we go. It's down there. And then he goes out in straight sets after. So he has the gentleman sweep, wins 1, loss.
Okay.
So I actually have the finals as a rematch of the first match in the bracket of Hemsey and Darkanus. Okay. So by definition, I guess I have to have Hemsey winning because he won the first time.
Interesting.
I said before that Jedi's Walker has the best deck. I think it doesn't match up well against Darkanus. The thing that I said, for those who don't remember from way back an hour ago, Hemsey's deck can win game 1 against Darkanus. The matchup that I see that falling to, Jedi's versus Darkanus in the lower bracket, that's what I was referring to. I don't think Jedi's deck has as much of a chance against Darkanus as in game 1. So I think that Darkanus is going to knock Jedi's out 2-1. Otherwise, it's Jedi's versus Hemsey in the finals, and that is the truest coin flip as we're going to see. So I have Hemsey winning the rematch over Darkanus, unless Jedi's beats Darkanus, in which case it's Hemsey Jedi's. And whoever gives me the biggest bribe will be my pick for that.
Yes, for all of that ability we have in changing the results for these games.
Yes.
we can...
Not even bribe for a result, just bribe me for a prediction.
That's it.
The most meaningless thing.
That's it. Send magic cards to... Send gem packs to...
Send gem codes, please.
Yes.
Boosty backies.
Do you remember when Wizards used to give those to us to give to people? Man, that was fun. Anyway.
Yes, I didn't know where you were going with that until you said that. Yes, I do remember that. Remember when Wizards ... customer service?
Yeah. I think Jedi's is too good. I think his deck is too good, and I think he's playing out of his.
That is a very valid point.
So,
it's hard to go past the play quality.
I feel like you gotta beat the champ, man, and this deck just feels like it's got everything. I mean, you talk about the fact that he can't beat Darkanus. He's got 2 farewells and negates and.
They can't beat him game 1.
Destroy
really
Eagles.
Struggles to beat him game 1.
Yeah, that's probably fair, but I mean, it'll be interesting to see. But I mean, he did lose early on to fall to the lower bracket, so it can happen.
I'm also like I mentioned before, I'm pretty bullish on Hemsey over Darkanus in the first game of the upper bracket that we've got. I have no clue who to pick for the rest of. I've picked Darkanus to progress through the lower bracket. And I genuinely don't know who will win any of those matchups. That deck is super close. I don't think it really thumps any of the decks except maybe Sweetman's in this top 8.
Yeah.
Darkanus' deck, that is. So that's why I find it so hard to pick that lower bracket.
Yeah, I find it interesting that we've got there's no mono blue, there's no mono black, there's no super aggro. We've got Gruul. Yeah. But it feels like it floats towards the mid-range a little too much to be the true foil to these kind of, Esper decks and the stuff that's trying to go a bit bigger. So it will be the battle of the mid range, which is what we've seen in this standard. It is very much it feels like a really honest sample of all of the decks in the format, and that's awesome. I love to see that. So I'm really pleased that we don't have. There are no two decks that are the same. They have similarities. There's plenty of overlap, but with the pool size that we have at the moment in standard, that's always going to happen. And I think this is going to be heaps of fun, man. Definitely. I'm really looking forward to covering all this and kind of getting across it.
Can't wait to watch. I'm actually, unfortunately, is this 2 days or just the 1 day? Remind me if you...
Just the one. It's on Saturday. So, yeah, we will have coverage starting from about 10:30, I think, 11 o'clock Eastern time on Saturday.
Good. I'll get some watching in early then. I've got a wedding coming up, so I have a lot of things it's in a couple of weeks. So
yes, you do.
I've got a very full Saturday, so I will definitely get to watch some early matches. So hopefully I'll get to watch my boys Darkanis and Matt from my group, and I would also love to watch. I just love to watch anytime Hemsy and Jedi's play. So those are my 4 players to watch. I guess sorry to the other 4, but
no, that's fine. You're allowed to have favourites. The good thing is that it's all on Twitch, mate. You can watch the VOD whenever you want.
VODs.
I know it's not the same.
No, but that's good, because I've just realised I can also rip the VODs to some sort of podcasting device and just hear all your lovely voices on my car rides to work.
You can.
It's like extra podcast episodes, guys. It's great.
Let's go. And they will go up on YouTube. We always make sure that we download them and upload them to YouTube as well.
Good, it's much easier to rip from YouTube.
It definitely is. All right, so I think that's going to do us for this week. We've gone a little long, but there's a lot to talk about, and I'm not going to apologise for that. I think this has been really good, man. I've had a lot of fun going through all this with you. So thank you so much for jumping on and helping out.
No, thank you guys very much. I'm very honoured to be asked back, and hopefully I will be again in the future.
Definitely, because we can get you on and just get you on and be like, mate, I don't know what you're talking about. Your predictions are all horrible. None of them came true.
And your singing sucks.
It's the caster's curse, right? That's what you do. You go,
just curse so many people then.
Jedi's is too good. He's definitely going to win. He's going to just go like 0-2 out.
Hemsy's just there shaking over me saying he's going to beat Darkanis twice and win, and he's like, no, shut up, you buffoon.
That's fine.
This top 8's so good, we haven't gotten to any of the Brothers War, and there's been so many good cards spoiled about that, so also go and check those out.
Next week, we will be talking a lot about the Brothers War. There'll be a whole lot of stuff going on there, but there's some this set is stacked. It's not even done yet, but there's a lot all the way from commons to mythics that make me excited. Which is, it doesn't happen a lot. Shorty is dancing little jigs every time he thinks about the fact that he's got Monastery of Swisspear back in standard again.
I'd forgotten that was back.
Yes,
there's so much in this set. I forgot that was back.
Correct.
I'm sitting here thinking about those artifact creatures that you can play cheaper for coloured mana.
Yeah,
and I'm like, what can you do with those? Yeah, that's the prototype. I've forgotten the name of the mechanic.
They look amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, before we talk for another hour, which I know we could do quite easily, we better wrap this one up. So
I'll let you get to bed.
I'll edit it and put it up there.
It's only 8:30 for me. I'm being a bit rude.
No, that's fine, mate. Happy to. All right. So, yeah, usual wrap-up stuff. If you want to check us out, we are the Magic Beans cast everywhere. Just go to magicbeans.com and you will find us there. It's got links to everything. As we said, come check out the final stream this Saturday, twitch.tv, Magic Beans cast. It'll get put up on Twitter and in Discord and all those usual places. If you want to come check us out, please do. We love to engage with our community. It's the best part. It still blows us away. People want to listen to us and hang out. But there will be truly top tier Magic played on the weekend with some mid tier commentary to go with it. So you can watch us stumble through lines that we don't understand while our players know exactly what they're doing, and we just get excited for sweet things that we didn't expect. It's like the most fun. If you want to support us, a couple of ways you can do that. You can buy some merch. If you're going to come to Sydney at the end of the month, we would love to see you. And if you've got like a Beans t-shirt on, that would blow our tiny little minds. Ty's is showing off.
I'm wearing. You can't see me right now, folks, but I'm wearing one.
He sure is.
And I have a second playmat on the way.
Oh, nice.
The first playmat is at work, being my mouse pad.
Yep.
And the second one's going to be my Commander playmat.
That's fantastic.
I was going to get one from my wife to be as well, but she loves the Little Mermaid too much, and we found a mermaid one, and she's got a Merfolk deck. So
Nice.
One Beans playmat and one Merfolk. I'm way off topic. How am I getting off topic in a wind-up?
Because it's you're
your move, Chewy. Your move.
Yeah, correct. So, yeah, you support us directly through the merch, or as we said, Josh and Pats, they are the ones who provide all of the price support. They let us do these leagues and these events with, real cash money for our winners. So please go and check them out. JPMTG Bazaar. They are fantastic and we love working with them. Otherwise, if you want to get in touch with me directly, look, Discord is the best place. But if you want to chat with me on Twitter, my handle is @JoelHill_. And Ties, where can people find you?
You can find me at ties_AU. And if you're into esports, as I sort of briefly touched on earlier, you can also find the organisation I started, Snowball Esports. We're like the Fox Sports of esports. I just get a quick plug in for there for us. You can find us Snowball Esports everywhere.
Love it. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate you hanging out, and we hope to see you on the weekend. See ya.
Kisses. Mwah, mwah.